I wanted to share. So I wanted to share some of the things that I'm currently learning in the community organising course I'm enrolled in through BBAL, because the learning resonated quite deeply with me. And my hope is that in sharing these things with you, I can share these feelings of hope and empowerment that the topics have inspired in me. And I know I'm not saying anything radically new. The aim is more to refocus your energy and reframe some simple concepts in a more active and empowering light. So I'm hoping to give you some easy steps you can take away with you to take your power back and make that change you want to see. I know many community groups across the 3 counties would like to encourage more community participation. So I'm hoping this presentation might provide some help with that. And I'm comfortable admitting that I don't have all the answers. We're on this journey of empowerment together, which personally I think is part of the beauty of the whole thing. So what do I mean when I say community organising? Well, essentially, community organising is the aim of encouraging people to realise and utilise their own power in society. I'll break it down into the purpose and the process here, since these are the important principles of it. So the purpose of community organising is, in a nutshell, to create a better world in some shape or form, be that economic, social, or environmental. And it's to affect change. It's fundamentally an exercise in hope, just a hope that things can be better in the future. And it's through sharing stories, listening to each other, fostering those connections and strengthening ties. It's this that leads people to feeling empowered. And through empowering the community, we can move to a place of leveraging that power and moving towards social change. Community can exist in many different forms through different bonds. It can be a community based on locality, such as a neighbourhood where people live and form a community in that sense, or they could be united not geographically, but through a shared topic of focus. For instance, climate justice movements that can span nationally, or I'm sure in most of your cases as local wildlife-oriented community groups, it is both of those things. And whatever the form of community, one thing remains true. Every community is made up of individual, unique people. In order to fully and effectively empower and organise a community, you need to make sure you're reaching all the people in that community. It might not always be that easy to reach people, and sometimes we can even be excluding people, though I'm sure we don't mean to. So there could be barriers such as financial exclusion or digital accessibility issues, such as, not being that tech savvy. And a note about that, I'm aware that, I myself am running a lot of online meetings here, and I am definitely keen to get more face-to-face options started so that we can reach more people. Learning about these things is helping me think more critically about our own reach with this project, which is why I want to share it with you. So I'm sure that we've all felt excluded somewhere down the line. And well, we know what this leads to, right? It's feelings of disconnection, feelings of mistrust and doubt. So we want to make sure we're consciously including people. And examples of what that might look like are hosting physically accessible events. So events that are accessible for people with disabilities, but also events that are accessible by public transport, for example. And maybe taking care to make events free, or consideration of using different languages based on the makeup of your community. And what all this will lead to is feelings of being valued and appreciated for being an individual, feeling uplifted and supported, all the things that you as an individual would want to feel. Sorry. So something else I just want to quickly discuss is unconscious bias. So these are the many subtle connections that we as humans make in our brain. And these shortcuts in thinking can sometimes lead to thinking in a stereotypical manner that compromises some of the nuance in the reality of life. And this can also be reinforced by societal norms. Take this dandelion, for example. commonly thought of as a weed and unwelcome, but the insects don't think that, do they? It's a great food source for many pollinators. And it is easily done about people. You know, it can be a very common stereotype that people living in poverty don't care about taking action for nature, for example, which most of the time just isn't true. And as I said, there will be more nuance and complexity to every individual's situation. So it's about bearing that in mind and finding that out. And all of this doesn't mean you're a bad person or somehow wrong to be thinking these things. We all do it, and it is something we can change. We just need to be more aware of it. And we can do this through being open-minded and listening to others. And I know we as nature lovers can often feel like we aren't being listened to ourselves. I definitely feel like I'm screaming into the void about the state of nature sometimes. And the fact of the matter is, you know, there must be some reason that people aren't listening to us, right? So what is that reason? We'll need to listen to these people to find out. So giving the time to listen to what someone is saying can be a really powerful gesture, especially among communities where people may often feel like they aren't heard or truly listened to. So one of the quotes that I came across through the community organising training was this one. So one of the easiest human acts is also the most healing, listening to someone, simply listening, not advising or coaching, but silently and fully listening, which really resonated with me. I think that actually says a lot, because I think, you know, listening is about remaining open rather than making assumptions based on what you think you know. And this links back to the principles surrounding inclusion and unconscious bias. It is really important to go in with an open mindset, especially when working with the aforementioned communities who may feel disenfranchised. And use of negative language can set the tone for an interaction. The words we use have power, after all. If you begin a conversation and refer to their neighbourhood as deprived, for instance, you're subtly showing them that you see their position as one of lack and not one of strength. So take the time to ask questions and listen to what they tell you. It is through this listening that you can show them you're invested in their viewpoint, and that alone can do wonders for empowerment. Obviously, listening means letting them talk, but it is important to create genuine connection with the communities you're working with, and having an authentic conversation is part of that. People don't want to feel like they're being interviewed, so active listening can be coupled with questioning, but questioning as a practice can be harder than you imagine. And again, you'll learn here the importance of being open. So open in your mindset and open in your questioning. It's about recognizing the power of asking questions and the impact you can have when you adjust your method of questioning. So here are some examples of types of questions, and leading questions are generally the most unhelpful. They can come in many forms, one of which being assumptive questions. So assuming some aspect of a situation is already true. For example, what is it like living in a deprived area? That might be an open question, but it is one that has already assumed the area being deprived as a fact, which is not an open way of communicating. So a better, more open question could be, what's it like living in your neighborhood? Or even ask a question with a positive framing. What do you love about living here? There will likely always be something people love and feel good about, and it sets a much more positive tone if you begin by focusing on these strengths rather than the problems. These open questions encourage a more constructive and eye-opening conversation, and are all part of the process of forming genuine connection with the people you're talking to. So, what are the next steps? As I said at the beginning, I don't have all the answers, and I'm on this journey with the rest of you. So for me, the next steps feel like simply going out there, talking to people, and trying to use these principles of active listening, open questioning, and inclusivity. I feel like starting by seeing where this change of approach could lead is a good place to begin. You never know what ideas these other people may have, And through connecting with them, you can collaborate and co-create these next steps yourself. So that's that.